it's like the one major thing that they could do right before the bye week is they need to fire the cook, because the cook apparently ordered some soybean kneecaps, and it just wasn't flying with Dan. Dan said this was unacceptable, so this firing was taking place immediately. So we're gonna have 2 weeks going into full bacon flavored kneecaps for the next 2 weeks going into Dallas. What do you think about that, Mike?
I think I don't eat no damn tofu kneecaps.
Tofu.
Hello to everyone out there in podcast land. This is The Main Event, 365 football podcast made by musicians, specifically Detroit Lions football. I am your host, Main Event Mike. Welcome to the program. Also, our producer and compadre, Mr. Russell Wayne. How are you, Russ?
Russell Wayne, I've been better, but we're committed. We're committed to bringing this Lions content to all of the people that need a shoulder to cry on, and that's what we're here for.
Amen. So, Main Event Mike, Russ Wayne here, talking about Detroit Lions football. Another week on the podcast. Lions fall to 1-4 after getting trounced by the New England Patriots 29-0.
You've had enough of that.
I'm just getting I'm getting a little bit worn out, and I'm not willing to give excuses out, even though there are reasons that we're going to get to. The main thing is it goes out there when you're winning in so many different categories out there, like plays and trying to get that time of possession, and you're actually moving the ball and everything. When it comes down to it, you have to point back towards the guys that are calling the X's and O's, man. So
11 wins, baby.
I hate to say it because I love me some Dan Campbell, but I mean, he's getting out coached. Dan Campbell's getting out coached.
Well, I think we are aligned here, sir. That's my initial reaction from this loss, 29-0. We were out coached, and I think the statistics support that. For example, total yards, New England had 364 total yards. That's not lighting it up. That's not running all over your defense. Their field goal kicker kicked 5 field goals. Nick Folk is pretty much automatic within 50 yards. And he hit 5 of them. They were 0 for 4 in the red zone. They scored 1 long pass touchdown, and they got a defensive touchdown. The rest was all Nick Folk. So they didn't annihilate our defense. They only ran 56 plays. We ran 64. They only had possession by 2 minutes longer than us. The yardage was, as I said, was about the same. So I think the proof is in the pudding there that the Lions going for it on 4th down and a staggering 6 times and coming away empty 6 times pushes the season average now to 8 for 18, the Lions on 4th down. That's bad decision making, Russ. One of those 4th downs caused Jared Goff to be sacked and fumble, which then was returned for over 50 yards for a touchdown. Bad play calling. They seemed to be a step ahead of us. Everything our offense tried to do, it seemed that it was the perfect scheme on defense to combat whatever play we had called. I just believe we are being out-coached. We were out-coached the week before by Pete Carroll. The Lions defense has been abysmal, but they played better against New England. We did have a New England superfan on the podcast who predicted that their defensive line would have their way with us. And I think he was kind of right. Matthew Judon, he said, would be a beast. So big props to Adam for making those calls. Adam Hamlin, our superfan from New England. He was right. The Lions were 0 for 3 in the red zone. The Patriots were 0 for 4 in the red zone. So there were some bright spots for the Lions. Hard to believe it, but there actually was. And I think Campbell's getting out coached. I think some of these mistakes are egregious, and they point directly to the coaching staff. I know everybody wanted to grill Aaron Glenn, but I think he had his players respond. They were able to stop the New England Patriots in the red zone and force field goals. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I think that he is getting out-coached. I think that he's went up against a couple really, really good coaches in Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick.
Hall of Famers.
Hall of Fame coaches, but it doesn't give you a pass. You're in the NFL. They're in the NFL. You're paid to win football games. And my comment on the fourth down is like, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm only saying, hey, you shouldn't have went for the fourth down that got the fumble and for the touchdown. But I want to make a clear line right here of where I agree with Dan, and I'm okay with his aggressiveness. If you are trying to upgrade from 3 to 7 points on every drive, and you're just keeping your field goal kicker on there because you don't trust field goal kickers, I'm good with that. But when you're giving up punts, like it's a choice between a punt and going forward on fourth down, where you can flip field position, where you can put your defense in a position of power over a rookie quarterback. I'm not jiving with that 4th and 9 that was on our side of the field, but anything on that side where it could have been a field goal, you got a field goal kicker that's not very good at kicking very long field goals. I don't care. Pass up the 3, go for the 7. It didn't work out. If you're going to live and die with a Cowboy, this is what you get when you die with it.
Correct. The Lions did bring in a kicker, Badgley. He came in on Friday and played on Sunday. So he was 3 for 10. He was 3 for 10 from beyond 50 yards. So I kind of agree with you. However, this game's always been a game of inches. It's always been a game about field position. And you have the best punter in the league, statistically the best punter in history. Jack Fox for the Detroit Lions will be a Pro Bowler this year. He may be our only selection of the Pro Bowl because Jack Fox is that good. But we don't use him. We're 0 for 6 on fourth down.
Yeah.
We're playing against a rookie quarterback, Bailey Zappi. Bailey Zappi was 17 for 21 for 188 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception with a 100 passer rating.
They protected him. They protected him. I have to give credit where credit is due, because when you're running the football in those short those little 4 or 5 yard gashers that we had, they never had him in a position where we could rush after him. He was never in a position where he had to be under pressure. It was always protected with the good running game, and the defense, they had a lead the whole time. So that's a good stat line, but I mean, I don't think they're just going to trade him for like a 2nd round pick or something.
But, well, why not? They did it to Jimmy Garoppolo. They do it all the time.
Dang it, because it's not fair that they're that good, Mike.
The New England Patriots have drafted quarterbacks beyond day 1 in the draft and started them, and they are 5-0 in those games where they start a quarterback that they drafted beyond the first round. But my point was, Bailey Zappi's a rookie. You've got Jack Fox on your team. Why not pin them down and make the rookie drive the field? Instead, he gets to drive a 45-yard field instead of an 85-yard field. Big difference. And he still came up short in the red zone. So you're not making correct coaching decisions. You got to play situational football. You're up against a rookie quarterback. Let's make him earn it. Let's make him drive down the field. I get that your defense can't stop anyone. I get that your field goal kicker can't make it. It's all the more reason to make smart, sound decisions, not play cowboy. I put this squarely on Dan Campbell. I put last week squarely on Dan Campbell. And you know what I like about Dan Campbell, Russ? He will take it. He will own it. He's my coach. I'm not giving up on him, but I'm not going to give him a pass. This team is young. Our coach is young. This is his first real head coaching job. He's going to take his lumps, and I think what we saw Sunday is taking your lumps.
So look here, guys. I'm really, really sorry. This one's on me.
Doesn't matter if you have 1 ass cheek and 3 toes.
So, yeah, 4th down, Cowboy. We need to put him back in the stable and start playing smart football. Grow up. So I want to move on from all that negative because we love the Lions here. We're never going to give up on them here at the main event.
I'm trying.
So we're going to take away. We're going to look at some positive now. One positive is the run game was still solid.
Well, I mean, you're more on to the stats when you had done a great job at looking at the stats. But Craig Reynolds had 9 touches for 92 yards. That's a positive. That means that the offensive line's got to be opening up them holes. So from a running game perspective, the offensive line gets I guess a plus grade. Wouldn't you think?
I think in the run game, the offensive line gets a passing grade. They did rush for over 100 yards, and they were behind the entire game, which meant they had to kind of abandon the run. By the time the third quarter rolled around, they had to abandon the run. They had 101 yards. Like you said, Craig Reynolds with 92 total yards shows that even with DeAndre Swift out, we have the horses in the running game to keep it going. This offensive line is strong. It's about 7 guys deep and strong. So definitely a positive that the running game is still solid. We did make a few trips to the red zone and came away empty, but it certainly wasn't the run game's fault. It wasn't the O-line and the backs their fault. Jared Goff was 19 for 35 for 229 yards. He had 1 interception and no touchdowns, but a very dismal passer rating of 62.7 compared to Bailey Zappi's rating of 100. Bailey Zappi was much more efficient than Jared Goff. But again, Goff had some drop passes again, week after week. His receivers are just not making him look good in the stat line.
And once again, we pointed out coaching. The coaching staff for the New England Patriots put Bailey Zapp in a much better position than our coaching staff put Jared Goff.
For sure. So the offensive line did pretty good in the run game. However, in the passing game, the offensive line kind of got owned. Adam Hamlin, our New England superfan, said that Matthew Judon would pretty much have his way with our offensive line. Now, well, I don't think it was that because he only had 3 tackles. 2 of those tackles were sacks. And even though he only had 3 tackles in the stat line, there's a lot of things in the stat line that don't show up, and that's how disruptive he was and how much pressure he was putting on us, collapsing the pocket and just never letting Jared Goff get comfortable. And I've got to admit, I didn't really know who Matt Judon was before this game. But because Adam had pointed him out so much in the Pridecast, I really kind of watched him when the game was going on. And this guy's a beast, man. He's for real. It looks like another great defensive player that New England has plucked and developed into a New England Patriot doing the Patriot way, as much as I hate that.
It's a coaching thing again, man. Actually, the more and more we're breaking down this game when we're going through piece by piece, you're actually making me more angry at Dan Campbell. When I think about this, is like, yeah, he only had 3 tackles. One of those tackles was you being an idiot and going for it on 4th down on your own side when you should have punted the ball. And then Judon got through. When your offensive line is always backpedaling and in that pass blocking position, you're allowing the defensive line to attack you. And when your offensive line is run blocking, they get to be the ones that are attacking. So when you're down 20 to freaking nothing, you're forced to do a lot more pass blocking because you're down. You have to come back and you can't run the ball all the time. So the offensive line got owned. I mean, from the perspective of pass blocking when they got late into the game, but I don't think that we're built to play from behind, and it just kind of showed.
Yeah. I thought this loss was demoralizing as well. Playing against Matt Patricia while we're still paying him. Jelani Tavai.
All of these different things right there, right? So we got outcoached.
You've had enough of that.
Jelani Tavai.
You've had enough of that.
Matt Patricia.
You've had enough of that.
Losing for 57 years or 100,000 years.
You've had enough of that.
So have we covered everything yet, Mike?
No, we haven't talked about the injuries.
You've had enough of that.
So I put this graphic up here because I think that I'll set this one up right here. The injuries are the reason, not an excuse. So this right here, I have to put an indictment on one of my golden calves, which is Brad Holmes. Oh, yes, yes. Dun,
In
dun,
Brad
dun,
we
dun.
trust.
Oh, gosh. But I'm not going to, this is not that big of a black eye because I do believe his plan extends through 2023 when it comes with the starting grounds and the launching pad. But injuries are the reason. We talked about this earlier, how we couldn't survive a safety injury. We had depth at offensive line, we had depth at wide receiver, we had depth at running back, and I would dare even say we had depth at cornerback with a lot of the same type of secondary guys, a lot of good guys, but not great. But we couldn't survive a safety injury, you know. And not only did we have a safety injury, we the captain of our defense, the green dot guy that was getting communications from Aaron Glenn, got injured, and we paid for it. That's the reason. I mean, we don't have the depth past him to survive an injury like that, especially with a guy like Bill Belichick, who is the mastermind and just, you know, he eats you alive when he sees you out in the water all, you know, trying to swim. He has the ability to drag you out into the deep end and beat you. We didn't have the depth to stay there with the secondary. As we were playing Chase Lucas, our rookie cornerback had to play safety on Sunday. It's like, you can't survive those types of things. That indictment goes on you, Brad Holmes. So you have till the end of next year, but it's a glaring hole right now, and we're aware. We see you.
I think that's a little harsh on Brad Holmes. I mean, it was very bizarre. They benched Deshaun Elliott to start the game, and they started Savion Smith, who was hurt on the second play of the game. Quite a scary moment there, as he suffered a neck injury and laid on the turf for quite a while, and an ambulance had to come on the field and take him off. And They say that he does have movement and feeling in all of his extremities, and they expect him to be on the field at some point. At this point, is what I heard today. So
that's good. That's
back.
awesome news.
Thank God for that. But he was starting at safety, and then he got hurt. So they had to bring Deshaun Elliott in, who then got cramps and had to go out because he was hurt. And then they brought in Ife Melifonwu, who sprained his ankle and got hurt. And they brought in Kirby Joseph. And guess what happened to him? He got hurt. That is bizarre. How can you blame Brad Holmes when you have the most bizarre rash of injuries at one position in one game that's ever happened in the NFL like that? You have to pull a 7th-round draft choice off the bench. He was busy making Gatorade over there, and they said, "Hey, Chase, we need you out here at safety." He goes, "No, I play corner." No, we need you at safety because we just entered the twilight zone. And yeah, pretty tough to put that one on Brad Holmes. But I do see what you're saying. It's the GM's job to fill out the roster to be looking out for injuries, to have enough players, your team built with enough players to cover what you need. So,
and that's
there's no one else
understandable.
to blame there.
Blame is such a harsh word because at this point, when we're in the middle of the season, we're only we've played 5 games, and I wouldn't fire a cook before he's done making the meal. Like, hey, what are you doing in there? It's like, okay, wait, well, hold on a second. Allow me to put the rest of the ingredients on this, and then I'm going to present it to you. And if anything had happened this year from the good perspective, let's say like
the playoffs.
Yeah, like if something like that were to have happened, we went through the ingredients earlier, and injury record pace was not one of the ingredients of us going 10-6 or 10-7 when we had made our video about being 10-7. I don't think that a record amount of injuries in the secondary was part of that recipe. So it is what it is, man. I mean, we're playing from a deficit, from a dead cat perspective. We have been for the first 2 years of this regime. I mean, let's get right. We got 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks, and injuries aren't the reason, are the reason, but it's not an excuse. We still have a season to play. We got some guys coming back. I mean, let's talk about that. Like,
I get what you're saying, and I'm not talking about blame. Maybe blame is a harsh word, but you know,
accountability.
Brad Holmes isn't the one that made a healthy scratch out of Amani Oruwariye.
I don't mind that.
That was a coaching decision. And on Bizarro Day, when all the DBs are getting hurt, boy, it would have been nice to have him on at least another body to put in there.
Boy, did that backfire. Could you imagine that? Like, he's out here trying to prove a point, really. You sit down Deshaun Elliott, you bring up Savion Smith. You sit down Amari, and you bring in Jacobs, and you're like, okay, yeah, we're going to ruffle this thing up, and we're ready to change. And then all of a sudden, oh, we have to go back to normal on the second play because everybody got injured, and then it got weird. So his whole plan of trying out new people and new things got really, that injuries are the reason. Not an excuse, but injuries are the reason. And
despite all of that, the Detroit Lions defense did play better in week 5 than they had the previous 2 weeks. They did get some stops in the red zone. And as you mentioned, New England was able to get a pass rush. And one thing that we are not mentioning is New England was getting that pass rush with 4 guys. Okay? The Lions were trying to manufacture a pass rush. Aiden Hutchinson did get to the quarterback one time, just missed him. Right. But pretty much,
he played much better.
Looked pretty comfortable all day back there in the pocket and handing it off and dinking and dunking it off to Ramondre Stevenson. New England Patriots running back Ramondre Stevenson finished with 161 yards. Wow. Career high against the Lions.
You've had enough of that.
Gosh, man. Stop the run.
All of our viewers and listeners out there, I encourage everyone to go over to our YouTube and look at a video Greg Rice from the podcast put up over there at the Main Event 365, where he calls out Aiden Hutchinson for underperforming. The video is doing really well, and it's getting a lot of response, so I recommend everybody go over there and look.
Aaron Glenn has been blitzing like crazy. Can we agree with that, right? He's been going – I want the viewers to understand, or if you're listening or if you're viewing, that when you blitz, what you're trying to do is you're manufacturing pressure for one, if you're trying to get a mismatch, but 2, you're trying to isolate people and give your stars, Aiden Hutchinson, one-on-one matchups. So when he's blitzing like that, we don't want our rookie to lose the job for our defensive coordinator because he's not getting that part of it done. We hope that he gets this better, because if he can win his one-on-one matchups, this defense could completely turn around. So what we need is to be able to get pressure with our base defense, just like what you had said.
Let's put a bow on it. 1-4, Detroit Lions, last place in the NFC North, looking up at the Bears, looking up at the Packers, and all the way at the top is the Minnesota Vikings, right where you and I predicted they would be at the beginning of the year. So that's it. We're done looking at New England. And normally at this time of this show, we're looking ahead to the next game. But, of course, the Lions are coming into a bye week. So before we start looking ahead at the bye week, I want to ask you, Russ, at this juncture, with all the things that have happened this year, if you were the general manager of the Detroit Lions, what do you do to fix it?
You know, back in the 1990s, they had this president, 1,000 points of light, stay the course. Stay the course. That's what we're going to do to fix this. So if I'm the GM, we have a lot of cap money. I'm investing money, big money, into veteran big dogs in the middle of that defensive line and on the second level of that defense. I'm investing a good portion, maybe 2-3 guys of veteran leadership that I'm putting on this team next year. And then you got 2 first-round picks. I'm keeping Jared Goff. I'm giving him a 3-year bag. And I'm going to see if he can't turn this Goffense into something completely special with him and Ben Johnson. And then I'm investing this capital, this money, all this stuff into the defense and give Aaron Glenn some toys to play with on D. And I think with that, we're going to have a contending team in 2023.
I agree with 90% of that. We try to land some defensive studs, some Pro Bowl caliber players on the defense. We draft defense, maybe like we did this year, 6 out of 8 on defense. Extra DBs, scour them in the undrafted free agents, try to find a gem. Brad Holmes is real good at identifying talent. We've seen that. But one thing you didn't mention that I would do if I were the GM, I would do all those things you said. But I would also light the match under Dan Campbell's seat right now. Look, he's got a long-term contract. We don't want to eat that. We want him to be the guy. But if he continues down this road for the next 12 games, and at the end of the year, we are scratching our heads going, this guy is 10 of 40 on 4th down this year. He went for it on 4th down almost as much as he went for it on 3rd down. If we're saying these ridiculous things about this guy, you've got to offer him a buyout, get rid of him, get a real coach in here, somebody with some experience. I like the guy too. I'm not ready to give up this year on him if the players are still playing hard for him at the end. But definitely I would light that match under the seat of him now and let him know that this isn't going to, this isn't going to fly next year. You better get it together this year to keep you here for next year.
You've had enough of that.
I mean, forget, Dan Campbell is not a Brad Holmes hire. All these things we love about the Lions in the last 2 years, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malcolm Rodriguez, the Aiden Hutchinson pick, 6 out of 8 on defense in the last year's draft, the Jamison Williams pantsing the Minnesota Vikings for arguably the most explosive offensive player to come out of college in the last 20 years. All those things that we like, we got to remember, Brad Holmes did that, but he never got a chance to put his general on the field, to get his coach in place. Okay.
So good.
That might be the next step here. And this might, now I'm not one of those fans that are turning on Dan Campbell. A lot of them are. I'm just being real here. The guy's a cowboy. And if this is what we're going to be seeing too much, making bad decisions, costing our team games, Brad Holmes, I do not think is going to let it fly. He'll eat that contract. He's already shown that he's willing to eat a contract and then keep a bad investment on the team.
I like that, Mike. I like that you're making Dan have some accountability. I do believe, I mean, I drew my line with that 4th down thing. I love the aggressiveness. I think you and I are a little bit different on that, just a little bit. I think that you like it a little bit too, but I'm willing to tolerate it to a point. Like I said, if you're passing up 3s to get 7, I don't mind that as much. But if you're giving field position up, our defense is already playing from a deficit. So we have a great punter. Like, we should utilize our punter in every situation that we can utilize our punter. But if it comes to, a field goal and you want to pass up a field goal, I don't care where you pass the field goal up. If you want to go for 7 because we have the most explosive offense, I'm willing to live and die with that 4th down call, just not from a punting situation.
If you have any kind of input out there and you want to let us know what you would do if you were the GM, be sure to you can send us an email at themainevent365@gmail.com. or leave a comment on one of our videos over on our YouTube channel. So we're going into the bye week. It's time to get right, Russ.
Let's do it.
Generally, the general consensus around the NFL is that players and coaches do not like early bye weeks, okay? But I think no team in the NFL needs this bye week now more than the Detroit Lions. All the injuries that we mentioned, they can get mended. You've got a tough game coming up going into Dallas, tough place to play. Dak Prescott's questionable for the game. We might see Cooper Rush at quarterback, but they've been playing over their heads. They've got an outstanding defense. They're thin at wide receiver, but that's good because we're thin at DB. It's going to be a tough game, and it's really going to take an extra week of preparation for the Lions to go on the road and win in Dallas. What do you see as the Lions' biggest needs to get out of this bye week?
I mean, getting right. I think that the caption says it perfectly. I just wrote down these names right here that I'm just kind of excited that we just haven't seen that are going to possibly impact this defense. Josh Paschal could possibly play. I don't know about the injury reports. I'm just going to say some names here just because I want to feel good right here. So Romeo Okwara, that's a name that's coming out there. Julian Okwara, he's been kind of on and off. Jamison Williams, Kaminsky. Here's a bunch of guys that we lost, and that's just on the defensive side of the ball. We may actually have our full complement of offensive linemen with it all together, like in one big old happy family. We've already proven that we have depth. Our depth can play. So when we get healthy, our offense is kind of scary. Now, I heard somebody say something about, wow, you know, this guy can Quinn can scheme us now that he's seen the recipe. He knows how to stop this offense. No, we don't. He knows how to scheme Josh Reynolds and Jamal Williams. He doesn't know anything about Swift. He doesn't know anything about Amon-Ra St. Brown with his full health and this full offense with its complement of weapons. Nobody knows what that looks like. We don't even know what that looks like yet. So I'm excited to come out of this bye week being one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. And I'm just hoping that the defense can get enough guys back and get right to play competitively on the defensive side of the ball.
It's a great point. DeAndre Swift is expected to play against Dallas. So the bye week is definitely going to help that injured shoulder get a little bit better. So there it is. Bye week, getting right for the Lions. That's what's on tap for next week. What's on tap for us is time to make predictions. And on this one, we both predicted that the Lions would beat the Patriots, and we were both dead wrong. Like most of the people out there, no one expected 29-0. No one expected the league's #1 offense to lay a goose egg. So that's the best part about the bye week is the Lions are guaranteed not to lose this week. But now that brings us to our lock picks around the league. Russ, I want to let you know that you are now 4-1 on the year for your lock picks because you took the Atlanta Falcons plus 8.5 against Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It's my quarterback.
And you are batting 4 out of 5, buddy. That's pretty doggone good. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The best in the world can only do 56%. You are well over that. So if anybody's out there paying attention, we're going to call Russ the Swami from now on because he is seeing the future. I also won my lock pick last week. I had Buffalo laying down a whole bunch of points against Pittsburgh, but Kenny Pickett's rookie start debut was not to be as they get bowled over 38-3. So I win that one, bringing my lock pick record to 3-2 on the year. I'm 3-2 on the year. You're 4-1 on the year. The Lions are 1-4 on the year. So it is time now. Russell Wayne, who is your lock pick for week 6?
Thank you. I appreciate it. I deserve most of that. Anyway, my lock pick of the week, if you're ready, dun, 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 we have the Jets versus the Packers, and the Jets laying 7. So I'm going to take the Jets. Give me the 7 points because they're going to cover that. It's going to be a little bit closer than that.
So Aaron Rodgers and the Packers go to London and get beat by the Giants, who are 4-1 now, by the way, playing over their head. And they come back home and they get to play the lowly Jets. And do you think the Jets are going to win outright?
I know they're going to cover that 7 points. And I'll tell you what, I will be ready to, I'll laugh at some Packers fans if they get beat by the J-E-T, Jets.
Well, don't laugh at them too hard because the Lions got to play the Jets also. and the Giants. Jets, Giants, Jags, 3 teams that are comparable to the Lions. They were right in the same draft area as the Lions, and they're all playing better. They all have more wins already this year than the Lions, which is a little surprising, and I think that points right back to coaching, especially the Giants. Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale really got those guys playing over their head. They got a tough assignment at home against the Ravens, and I think it comes to an end for them, and that's why I took the Ravens, giving up 5 even on the road, because I think it's time for the Giants to come back down to earth a bit. I mean, beating the Packers, that's pretty impressive. They've had a couple impressive wins this year, but I think the Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are just going to be too much for them. And you got the Jets beating Aaron Rodgers, so, hey, let's see, man. If you go 5 out of 6, Russ, it's time to take you to Vegas, kid.
Take me to Vegas. I'm ready. So if I had advice for anybody out there, is like these over 7-point spreads, it's hard to cover that. I mean, the fact that you picked one of the teams that could actually, produce a Saturday type of score and pull that off with Buffalo versus Pittsburgh, that's pretty impressive, because I think anytime in the NFL where you're laying more than 7 points, it's just hard. It's just hard. That's where I was like, the Jets the Jets are not an awful team, and they can hang, and 7 points to me is just too much. So
yeah, their quarterback Zach Wilson. Their quarterback Zach Wilson's a real gamer. I'm really, really starting to dig that kid. Well, yeah. I think that about does it for me, Russ. What do you think?
11 wins, baby.
Go over to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Please subscribe. It doesn't cost a thing, and it really helps us out. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back next week. Don't forget, you can catch us on the main stage, Monday night main stage with the Pridecast members at 6:30 live on Facebook. For the producer, Russ Wayne, I'm Main Event Mike. Thanks for listening. Peace out.
11 wins, baby.